Stand your head to the left. Good. Yeah. Okay.
Orienka on your right. Yeah.
Again to the left. Stand your head to the left leg. React. Yeah. That's all right. Stand your head to the left. Okay.
Merci.
So, die Kameramänner und Fotografen bitte ich, sich hinzusetzen, damit wir beginnen können mit dem gesprochenen Wort, mit der Pressekonferenz.
We'll now begin with the press conference. The film is The New World.
Ja, das machen wir schon. No, let me start. Ich möchte Ihnen erst vorstellen,
Let me
wer auf dem
first
Podium sitzt.
introduce the people on
Von
the
Ihrer
podium
Seite
to
aus,
you.
auf der linken Seite
On your
ist
left,
Jörg Wittmer,
we
der
have Jörg
Kamera gemacht hat.
Wittmer, cinematographer.
Daneben die Hauptdarstellerin Koryanka Kilcher.
Koryanka Kilcher, the leading actress, sitting right next to him.
Sie hat heute Geburtstag. Die
It's
Fotografen
her
haben eben
birthday
gesungen.
today, and I believe the photographers are going to sing a song for her.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Koyanka. So, und Sie haben gehört, dass sie auch Deutsch spricht.
So you hear,
Hauptdarstellerin,
she also
vielleicht können Sie
speaks
auch auf Deutsch ein paar Worte
German,
sagen.
so she might
Ist die
address us
auf Deutsch
even
und
in German,
übersetzt und natürlich
and
unsere Gäste antworten.
we will hold the press conference in
Neben mir
German.
sitzt,
Jörg
Sarah
Widmer
Green,
also
die
is
Produzentin
German.
des Films.
Next to my right, Sarah Green, the producer.
Und Sie vermissen sicher Terrence Malick.
And I'm sure Terrence Malick, you see, has not
Frau
arrived,
Green
is not
kann
here.
dazu vielleicht
And
was
maybe Ms. Green can say a few words about this.
Well, thank you. And I bring warm greetings from Terry Malick, who's very honored to be part of this festival, as are we all. He is madly working on his screenplay for the next project, and I encouraged him, I'm afraid, to do that, or we might have to wait another 10 years.
Und vielleicht können Sie ihn ja heute Abend auf dem roten Teppich sehen oder auf der Bühne. Er ist jedenfalls in Berlin. Irgendwie ist das
Right.
ist da ja ein bisschen Spannung drin.
There's
Aber
quite a bit of
Sie
excitement
umschauen.
and
Wir müssen noch ein
tension,
bisschen
and he's
ja.
here somewhere,
Gibt es
but
Fragen aus dem Publikum?
let me now
Sie
ask the
müssen
audience
warten auf das Mikrofon.
for
Es kommt jetzt
your
zu Ihnen.
questions, and do
Mikrofon.
wait for the microphone, please.
Hello, my name is Cameron. I am a journalist from Merhaba, German Turkish City Magazine here in Berlin.
Wie geht's dir?
Oh, thank you. Fine.
Gut.
Wie geht's Ihnen?
Gut.
It was happy birthday.
Danke. Thank you.
It was a wonderful movie, beautiful acting.
Thanks.
My respect. How did you felt? How was the
feeling?
The feeling? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was an amazing script, first of all, and I felt so honored to be able to be a part of telling the story again of John Smith and Pocahontas. And it was an amazing journey of self-discovery in so many ways, and I learned so much in my acting from Terrence Malick as well as the wonderful, accomplished cast I was working with.
How was the making of with the other film partners, Christian Bale and Colin Farrell?
How was it?
Yes.
Oh my God, Colin Farrell and Christian Bale, as well as Wes Studi and Augie Schellenberg, they were so wonderful, and they're so talented, and they've been doing acting for so long. So just to be on set with them and be able to watch them, even though I wasn't in the same scene, I learned so much from them, and they were all such generous actors and so serious about their work, and it was just amazing to be around that.
Das ist eine Frage auf der linken Seite. Moment, Augenblick, das Mikrofon kommt.
We have another question.
Yeah, hello, Mark Karapetian, editor of Spirit, A Smile in a Storm, a film magazine. A question to Georgianka. Was it difficult for you to play the feelings of Pocahontas or Rebecca for you? And why the director, Terrence Malick, chose you for the role? Do you had a casting for that, or?
Well, the second question would be a very good question to ask Sarah Green, because I don't really know. I just went into auditions, and I tried to give the best of my abilities and hoped to have another audition, and never knew when it was going to end. But for the first question, it was, right from the beginning when I arrived in Virginia, all I knew was the cartoon of Pocahontas, like everyone else. But when I got there, I did do extensive research, and I read through tons of books. And so by the beginning of filming, I started immersing myself into the character of Pocahontas and started thinking like her and stuff. So when I would go on set, I wouldn't be myself, and I would be kind of Pocahontas in my head. So it wasn't too hard by the time that Pocahontas turned into Rebecca to be like that. What? What do I think about the Disney film? It's great for kids. It's definitely with the little talking raccoon and the tree and stuff. But you know, I feel personally nothing bad against it, but it doesn't really show, because doing all the research, the cartoon really doesn't convey and show the hard birthing pains of a nation at the sacrifice nearly of a culture. And the culture still existing today, but the Native Americans that remain really showing that they began to take a very hard beating the day the English arrived. So it kind of shows it back then very happy, and everything happened very easily, and yay, the English came. So, but.
The casting process, to answer that part of your question, was quite a long one. It was the first thing that Terry and I realized would be the challenge of this film. We put a woman on who's a specialist in Native American casting called Renee Haynes 8 months before we needed to know that we had this young woman, and it took that long. We looked first at all the reservations and all over the powwows and through the Native community all through the United States and then Canada, and eventually we expanded our search all over the world. We had 13 casting directors looking in many countries at all indigenous peoples to find someone who could play both sides of this character. And Q'orianka we found in the last month in Los Angeles. She's the first person we met who was both youthful enough and fresh enough to play that young, untouched character that we meet in the beginning, and had the gravitas and the maturity to play the older Pocahontas.
So, und die nächste Frage von der linken Seite.
My name is Carlos Daltaca Brandão. I'm from the Brazilian press, and I wish to please give Mr. Malick our thanks for another beautiful film he made, and Rousseau would love it. And well, I wonder, this story has been told so many times, so many ways, including animation and so on. What took the producers to introduce a new view on this old and very, very beautiful story?
I felt it was extraordinarily timely because it's always very, very important to look back at one's history and try to learn from it. And in the world we live now, cultures meld closer and closer every day, and yet we're in big trouble from misunderstandings and from people's intolerance toward other cultures. So this story was certainly a sort of seminal one in the United States history, and I felt it was a really ideal time to reconsider it and to consider whether one can start fresh as a country.
Eine Frage hier rechts.
Hello, my name is Olga Galperovich. I'm from Belarus Radio Culture. Aber meine Frage wird auf Deutsch sein.
My question is in English.
Die erste Frage
My
zu
first question
Q'orianka.
for you, for Q'orianka.
Für mich ist es interessant, Sie waren ganz
It was interesting for me because you were full of love in this film, and what choice would you make if you were in her footsteps, you personally?
What choice would I make if I were in her footsteps? You know, I really found being a young girl myself, and if I would have been in her shoes and not have had the foresight to see what devastating consequences would have happened, you know, I honestly, in the name of love, or whatever it was, or a crush, or whatever it was, you know, I kind of maybe would have done the same thing, because I don't really know, because I don't know. I probably would have changed. I probably would have tried to think more clear of what would have happened if Pocahontas would have gone to the English and told them that there was going to be an attack. I probably would have tried to think a little bit more on it, but I honestly wouldn't know, because you kind of get blindsided. But
I think that's one of the great beauties and the great tragedies of love, that we can go blindly into the night. And one of the themes that this story explores is the characters move from that wild, you know, infatuation to a more selfless love, to a more mature, kind of generous love.
Und noch eine Frage. Sie haben, also diesen Film heißt In the
Right.
New World.
In the New World is the name
und
of the
diese
film.
Frau, die
And
hat auch
this woman now
einige New Worlds
has
in
all different kinds of new worlds
Und
that you
was können
find
Sie
in
sagen,
her love.
Was denken Sie, ob
So,
diesen
what do
Film
you
kann
think?
irgendwie
Could this film
neuen Welt für alle anderen Leute,
be a
für
new
Zuschauer
world
auffinden
also
oder
for
zeigen?
spectators, for the viewers? Could it show up a new world for the audience?
You know, in some ways I could say yes, but everybody has their own opinions about the story of John Smith and Pocahontas. And, you know, you can never really change their opinions. You can show them and hopefully persuade them and show them a new world of it. Whether they take it or not is really up to them. Me personally, I think this film, it shows that you can learn from your past so you don't repeat the same mistakes. And I hope people will get that out of the film, as well as showing that one person can make a difference and that everyday decisions that you make do affect the people as well as the environment around you.
Vor der nächsten Frage möchte ich noch eine
Before the
möchte
next
ich eine Frage stellen
question,
an Jörg
I have a
Wittmer.
question for Jörg
Ich habe Sie als
Wittmer.
Kameramann vorgestellt.
I
Natürlich haben Sie nicht
introduced
alleine
you
diese Kamera
as a
gemacht. Können Sie noch mal
cinematographer. Of course, you
Ihre
weren't
Tätigkeit,
alone.
Ihre Rolle
Maybe you
kurz
could just say a few words about your
Ja,
work.
erstmal der Kameramann, der das wirklich
Yeah, the
gemacht hat und
cinematographer
geleitet hat, ist Emanuel Lubezki.
is Emmanuel Lubezki. I greatly respect him. He has made very important films. And the invitation that I got was from Terrence Malick to join in the team. And the idea was to capture nature and to give those feelings of the English who, after 3 months of traveling across the ocean, who then discovered green after being on that ocean for 3 months. And the feelings that they had, the idea was to capture those feelings visually and then to work without additional lighting and to try to experience nature visually. And so therefore the camera movement and all the technology equipment required when you have less lighting available. All of this means, of course, that the person holding the camera thus has a major role to play. And so, without additional lighting, movement, all of this is part of Lubezki's and Terrence Malick's conceptualization. So it was basically a triad that worked hard on that aspect.
Hello,
Another question.
Minos Mikelidis from Greece. I would like to ask a question to both Karianka and the producer. Knowing that Terrence Malick is a perfectionist, how did you get this? Were there any, for example, examples you can give us that you felt this perfectionism that maybe made it more difficult for you to give what he asked for? And also for the producer, a short question. Was this the final version that we have seen, the complete one, or has there been another version? Thank you.
Well, the perfection part. Personally, I didn't really feel pressured in the perfection part. I would go on set as well as the other actors, and Terrence Malick was a really wonderful director because he allowed his actors artistic freedom of it and to really immerse themselves into their characters and bring it to life in their own way. And we would try different ways out if it worked, if it didn't. So being on set, it was really like you were with family, so you weren't afraid to show things. And the way he set up the sets, thanks to Jack Fisk that designed all the sets, he made it really visually beautiful, as well as Emmanuel Levinsky and this wonderful person sitting next to me. So, it was really the sets, the costumes, and the cinematographers that I suppose conveyed it, as well as Terry in his head. But I wasn't really caged in of perfection.
I don't experience Terry as a perfectionist either.
Yeah.
I found him really collaborative and very, very open to a lot of input into the natural world. It's one of the things that's so beautiful about the movies that Terry directs, is that he lets what happens, whether it be in nature or with human beings as they relate to each other. He finds those accidents that are the most true, and that's how he tells his story. This is, the version that you've seen is in fact the final theatrical version, and there is an extended version that runs about 3 hours that will be on a high-definition DVD in the fall.
Es sind viele Wortmeldungen, wir gehen aber der Reihe nach. Ich merke, versuch's mir zu merken.
Okay, we have many more questions.
Gregor Wassetters from Entertaining.com. Yeah, the first question to Mrs. Kilcher, pretty impressive work, and I think it's pretty hard to carry a movie like this on your shoulders, also being a newbie in the biz. This movie, well, I have to elaborate a bit here. This movie seemed to me like this doesn't have like a straight narrative. This is basically like momentary scenes. And the movie looks like somebody's talking of memories. Like things are some things are blurry, some things are very clear in the mind. That's how the movie spoke to me. How did this translate into shooting it without being a constant narrative? Could you maybe describe a bit, did these things change on the set? Did he came to you with spontaneous new script lines and stuff? How did you work this out, if you can describe that?
Sometimes Terry Malick, not all the time, but sometimes he would come to me and Colin in the morning and give us some pages of some new lines, and he would say, try to learn this for later. And we were like, okay, cool. So we would go on set, we would have it pretty much down, and he would say, Koryanka, could you just maybe say this one line and don't say anything else? And so it was like learning a new language in a sense, and we would kind of convey a lot of it through facial expressions as well as body movements. And we didn't know all the narrative, what we were going to be saying in the narrative part, because we did that after filming in ADR sessions. So we didn't know how that was going to sound or how it was going to fit to the picture, and so it was the first time ever seeing it like that, the first time I watched the movie. So.
If I can also add to that, because with the exception of a very few shots that were on a crane or a dolly, the entire movie was either handheld or Steadicam. So we moved very quickly, and it allowed for a lot of different trials. You know, we'd try it here in different places. We would try slightly different variations on the language, or as Koryanka was saying, sometimes with no language whatsoever. And it allowed us to just move, although I must say, Jorg never got to put the camera down.
Wenn die Natur entsprechend, wenn es Wind gab,
right, if there was wind, for example, then we dealt with the wind. If the sun was shining, then we would use the shadow that was cast. So we didn't intervene and produce something artificially. We used what was there. And nevertheless, of course, it then was brought into sync with the narration.
Bernd Soboda for the German radio. I've got a few things which I just didn't understand. We see that the English group diminishes after a while, that I think it was even said that there are only 36 people, and then we see this really huge fight. I mean, I just thought that nobody would survive, and afterwards the group seemed almost as big as before, and also I thought, now there can't be any communication between them and native people living there, and then they pick up the princess and even start to deal with the copper pot and so on. Maybe I just didn't get some things right. Maybe can you explain or say a few words about this?
I'm very pleased you thought the battle looked huge, because that's one of my... I took a lot of heat in the editing room. Terry would say, Sarah has betrayed us, because there really were only about 30 to 40 extras in those battle scenes on the colonist side. They were starving, and there weren't that many left. The only reason that they didn't, perish in that battle was that they had warning and they had firepower. They had the guns, so they managed to keep people away. But there was a period of time that they were sort of held hostage in the fort, and that's when the character of Pocahontas had been banished from her people for her betrayal. She was staying with an uncle upriver, And, there were one or two of the colonists would go out scouting and kind of looking around to try to find, to get information as to when they were going to be attacked again. And he sees her, and that's when they decide to kidnap her and sort of make a trade. So it was, in fact, actually one of the few things that's historically written in more than one, of the narratives of the time.
Nächste Frage, der Herr, der das Mikrofon jetzt bekommt.
Ich stelle mal zur Abwechslung wieder eine Frage auf Deutsch.
I'm going to ask my question in German. I work also for a film service. Now, I'm sure you can be of all different kinds of opinions about this film, and that's the quality of the film. Now, the directing and the cinematography is excellent. It's masterpiece, and so my respect for that. And the courage of Terrence Malick in making this film, and making the way it has been made. Now, for you, the producer, Ms. Green, when you begin with a prayer and you end with a prayer, you could say the whole film is one big recognition of the importance of prayer. It's one big prayer, if you will, the whole film. So did you give Terrence Malick complete freedom, or did you take out some of the voiceover, also looking at the film market and what it requires? Or is the film 100% Terrence Malick, or did you give some input?
Terry is an extraordinary director, and while he was always open to input and asked for it, he described our job sometimes as bricklayers working side by side, and none of us should be in the slightest bit afraid. It was just a matter of putting our bricks side by side well together. But the bottom line is, this is Terry from beginning to end. I have too much admiration for him, and quite honestly, that's how I feel about working with directors. I feel that it is a director's medium, and I'm there to support them. I'm there to help realize their vision in whatever way I can. So I really learned from Terry as much as I tried to help him. It was actually such an interesting process for me. I was there from the very beginning, all through post-production, which is very unusual for me, because it was so interesting to watch him work and to watch watch his whole process and how he came to this final place. He tries a lot of things, he experiences it, he thinks about it, he talks about it with his team, and he makes his decisions. But this is pure Terry. Lucky us.
Die letzten beiden Fragen kommen jetzt von hier rechts.
Hello, this is Martina Kahn from BZ Newspaper. Happy birthday, Koryanka. Could you elaborate a little bit on your German background and tell us what you got for your birthday today, please?
From what?
For your birthday today. Did you get any presents or anything?
I got rose oil that my grandma made for me from the Black Forest. So I got that and some creams for my face, and I got a wonderful bouquet of flowers and a little sweater thing from here today. And I have all of you guys to talk to, and I'm excited. I'm so excited to be in Berlin. So that's my birthday presents that I got so far today. It's from my mom's side. My grandma lives in Schweigmatt well, she did live there. She moved somewhere else. I'm not sure where. I was born here. I was raised in Hawaii, and I can speak a little German.
Ich bin ein Berliner.
Du bist?
The famous, you can say it now.
Ich bin ein Berliner.
Yes.
Ja.
It's a famous saying of John F. Kennedy when he went to Berlin. So. And the last question.
Hello everyone. So happy birthday to Ms. Oranka. I'm a journalist from China, and I have a question for Ms. Oranka. So I'm a little confused how possible Rebecca fell in love with another man. So what do you think? And
how what?
How is possible that Rebecca fell in love with another man? So between the two men, which one you think is a true love? Thank you.
Well, I'm talking for myself personally. I think in a sense, we're always drawn to the more adventurous, free-spirited kind of guys, because you never know what's going to happen, and it's kind of exciting, and it's a sparkly love. And at the same time, I think the more real true love that would probably last longer would probably be the John Rolfe type. Very much a selfless love, very mature, and very giving. And I think I'm not very sure because I've never experienced it myself yet. But I think one day I will get back to you on that a bit more clear. So.
Okay, ich bedanke mich für Ihre Fragen und Ihre Aufmerksamkeit.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your attention and all the best.
Vergessen, welcher eins ist.